2023, totaling $316 million. And so it's definitely my position that it's way beyond time to get rid of the school impact fee. I did just request a copy of that ordinance today, so I haven't read through the whole ordinance, but during my first cursory review of it, there's two different sections that were interesting. One is that City Council shall discuss that particular fee every 2 years. And then two, that the school district by the 15th of April every year is to submit to City Council a report on the impact fees and monies collected. And one, did we receive that report? I didn't see it. Or do you know off the top of your head? Okay. And so definitely something we should talk about. And then Mr. Ferguson, my understanding is ordinances can only be amended by enacting a new ordinance. Is that correct? Okay.
That's correct.
Okay. So we'd definitely like to see this again at a future workshop meeting. If we did a workshop meeting, that also provide an opportunity for folks in the development community to share their thoughts while we're taking a look at this. I'd love to hear, and I know we've had public hearings before where one person showed up and I've shared my displeasure with that, but would like to have the opportunity for people who are boots on the ground, actual developers, actual builders, actual realtors to share their thoughts. Less interested in what HBA and TCAR have to say, though their input would certainly be welcome and valued, but want to also hear from the people that they represent to ensure we're just getting a good look at everything. And so if we bring this back for more discussion in the next couple of weeks, I think one of the priorities would be to see what we can do about getting rid of that school fee. It seems easy enough. And again, in 2012, probably necessary. Since then, $316 million that they've gotten through bonds. I think it's worth a conversation of getting rid of that. Thanks.
Thank you. So I appreciate the discussion here, and I think the question is, where do we go from here? It seems like there's at least a couple voices that are seeking some sort of review. I don't think we have a motion that would be appropriate at this point, certainly not one drafted, but from my stance, I'd like to know whether or not we have a majority of council that's interested in getting some sort of comprehensive review. And then my opinion, that review ought to include, and this may put even more on your plate, I'd like to see, Mr. Harpster pointed out that there are certain like biennial or triennial or whatever reviews. If we're not doing them, we ought to follow our code. To that extent, I think we shouldn't just be looking at dollar value and assessment, but one, do we actually implement these? Do we implement them fairly across the board? And then two, ought we be reviewing, or in the case of the school, are we receiving what we expect from our, so-called customer, the transferee of the funds? So I think things like that, to me, if we're going to do the review, it should be comprehensive enough to address statutory requirements from all parties, and whether or not, including the city, those requirements are being met. That said, I guess the question is, what's our appetite for council to have this come back at a workshop meeting? I see. Okay, so it sounds like the general council, the general consensus is yes. Was what I said, one, does that reflect what council would like to see?
Yes.
Okay. And two, was that clear to staff? Blanche, do you have anything to add?
I was just going to say yes. Not sure if you heard it.
I'm going to assume that's not a yes. I have more to say, but yes, you're good with it.
Yes, I approve for further conversations on this.
Thank you. Thank you. I guess from council standpoint, do we want a time frame, or just sooner rather than later? Leave it open.
My thoughts on that would be better to not rush this and get it done right. I mean, if it takes the summer and into the fall, great. I want to make sure we get it done right, though, and that it's not something 2 weeks from now we have something in front of us, but then a month later think, oh, we didn't talk about this or that. I want to have a good, robust conversation.
Any objection to soon-ish, but robust enough.
Concur. I'd love to see staff have enough time to be exhaustive and thorough in this. And this is a big lift for them, I'm sure. So definitely agree with Councilmember Harpster to have it done right. Thank you.
Mr. Gonzalez is going to fall on your shoulders. You good? Okay. All right. Anything from staff on that issue? Okay. Seeing none, that moves us into item 12, which is our miscellaneous discussion. Mr. Lincoln.
Yes, Mr. Gonzalez actually has a couple more updates for you since it's his night, as you pointed out.
Show up tomorrow a little late. Just a quick update. This Thursday, staff will be conducting a public hearing with the Pasco Planning Commission. That's Thursday at 6:30 p.m. here in Council Chambers to hear presentations from applicants seeking funding from the annual 2025 Community Development Block Grant Program, CDBG allocation. The estimated entitlement amount, the amount that we've been shared by the Department of Housing and Urban Development as of now is approximately $677,540. There's an asterisk because that amount does change next year when the formal authorization comes through from HUD. This year, we did receive 15 applications with the total funding request of just under $1.7 million, so an obvious gap. Out of that $677,000, there are several requirements and also caps on what we can allocate funding for public services, for administration, et cetera. So for the general public and certainly for council and others, just wanted to share that should be an informative planning commission meeting on Thursday. It's the only item, so we'll be able to take our time listening to all the applicants this Thursday, and then that'll go to the planning commission for more recommendation later this summer, and then it'll be in front of council for decision this fall.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. You have more?
I've got one more item.
Sure.
That's all right.
No, that's good.
And this is, thank you again, Mayor, members of council. This is related to an ongoing effort that I think we're really excited to move forward on. This is a development process review assessment. This was a project that initiated back in 2019 or so and then was paused due to obvious circumstances. Several months ago, staff picked up and was able to work with our same consultant from Clarion and Community Recode based out of Colorado to assist staff with not only reviewing barriers and hiccups in our development process, but actually implementing the new framework so that we can move forward with a more consistent and viable process for both staff to administer and applicants to have as a guide. On the next slide, wanted to highlight that several weeks ago we held a virtual workshop with attendees, over 20 in attendance virtually, representing home builders, commercial developers, realtors, partner agencies, engineering representatives on behalf of applicants to discuss several topics related to the submission of applications, the review process itself, fees, SEPA, traffic studies, how do they find information, how do they not find information, how do they get their questions answered, along with outlining some of the project outcomes. Just really quickly wanted to summarize some of the themes on the next slide. We heard back about the ability for applicants to submit application and fees online. It can be a cumbersome process for folks to come all the way to City Hall and pay for something when they can do so with other platforms online. Communication and timeline, obviously, is something that needs to be addressed, and developing a more streamlined process, particularly related to SEPA, since that can be a barrier for many projects. That's the environmental review. On the next slide, there were comments about the fee structure and their predictability. I shared earlier that when an applicant submits their TIA, they're not sure what other fees they may be responsible for. So identifying those outright in front of the process so that an applicant knows what's ahead, I think would be helpful, certainly for them. Internal communication and coordination among staff was brought up, along with some transparency and tracking. So how does an applicant track where their project is at throughout the process? Just kind of paraphrasing and summarizing some of the general themes and comments we heard at that workshop. But there were also some good things that were shared. Some of the comments had indicated that there's been a noticeable improvement in customer interaction and communication. Staff has reevaluated and kind of imagine our pre-application process to make those more reduce any barriers essentially for folks trying to meet the city and have a meeting about what it takes to get an application approved. Support for some of the recent code updates and code amendments adopted by council, and also for staff making themselves available kind of throughout the week at various times to help individuals with their projects. So certainly a lot of room for improvement, and but also some good things in place right now. We are continuing to work with our consultant, likely having another workshop meeting with our development stakeholder group towards the end of summer, and working with them to develop that framework, essentially that new process with them from the beginning of the process rather than towards the end. So just wanted to provide council with a quick overview. We do intend to come back with a formal presentation about where we're at with this process, but I just wanted to share that for council's awareness. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gonzalez. Mr. Lincoln, you got anything else? Okay. I see one light, so Mr. Harpster. Sorry. Mr. Miller, go ahead, Mr. Harpster.
Okay. Yeah, so since we're having discussions on things that are dear to our heart, or things that we'd like to talk about, I know a couple weeks ago, Councilman Perales and myself, we talked to city staff. We had a good conversation with Director Rice and Adam Lincoln about the animal shelter. And I was just thinking it might be more prudent to bring back the thought of the advisory council, as far as related to the animal shelter, as through like a workshop, and see where we sit as a council, community feedback, and just kind of get the staff's input and, kind of flush this out so that things don't go around the internet and people say, hey, we're not doing it. We are really passionate about the animal shelter. I know I've devoted my time. You guys have taken off, your time. Other council members have taken off their days to talk about it, and I think it would be good for the council just to flush it out, go through the process, and see where we sit. So I was asking for other council members to chime in if we could get it on a workshop and kind of go over this and see what we could do for our community.
Well, I'll be for that. That sounds great.
One of the things I was going to mention, Mayor Pro Tem, was that I would be certainly interested in at least having that discussion and seeing what we can do. So I'd be in favor of that.
So we've got three. I'd say I'm either indifferent or I'm very concerned about setting up another advisory board that's not going to have teeth. So I'm not terribly interested in that approach.
Well, we could provide it with teeth. I mean,
And to that point, so obviously a lot of folks know that we're part of animal control authorities. That means we have several ILAs with the two other cities. So any kind of action obviously would have to be in concert with the two other cities. So that's a obvious process that would need to take place. But that's certainly something that the opening discussions could take place at this level, and then depending on how the council feels, it can go on the road from there.
I guess my preference would be socialize it before we start, then hit a stall at potentially other two cities.
or it can just be like a specialized committee within the city of Pasco.
Okay, so we got three that are for. Do we have a fourth voice that's... At this point, I'm hearing none.
Just to clarify with that last point, so the ILAs are pretty strict in terms about what the governance structure has to be and what the committee is of the ACA. So, and we can get into that, and I'm happy to walk you through it. We've certainly had to do it several times, so it shouldn't take a whole lot to get you up to speed on it. So if you'd like us to come back and kind of give you an overview of what your governance structure is of that organization, we can certainly do that.
Thank you. You're up. Okay. So Mr. Grimm's pushed the needle across the board. we'll have a short presentation on that.
Yeah, that'd be great to hear the structure and learn more about that. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Could we have a committee of council that's Blanche?
I'm not into starting a new task force if we don't have buy-in from the other two cities. So right now, if they're not participating, I don't see the need for creating something new.
Okay. So, sounds like there are 4 who are interested in exploring. Maybe we look at a subcommittee at some point, but we'll see what staff brings back.
Yeah, I can do a quick overview of the kind of how we got here with the ILAs and kind of where the structure is, and keep it fairly simple, and then folks can decide where they want to go from there.
I think that's probably the most reasonable approach. Let's look at the legal structure of these entities and move from there. I'm not sure who was next, whether it's Harpster.
I'll defer to Councilmember Harpster.
Mr. Harpster.
Yeah.
So you're ready? If
thank
not,
you.
I can
Sorry,
push
I
back
was
to Perales.
right now.
I can push back to Mr. Perales.
Regarding Road 40 East extension, it was frustrating for me that the result we came up with, which I understand was the best we could come up with, was to do the one-way street. It's not the best option, and everybody who understands development and infrastructure, I think, would agree with that. So I just actually this weekend finished reading a business book on civic engagement and business. And there's lots of examples of third parties helping negotiate deals between cities and private landowners, sometimes with success, sometimes without. And so I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I think my preference would be to take Mr. Baumann up on his offer to coordinate some discussions between Mr. Colbert and staff, Mr. Lee, whoever, and see what can happen with the very clear note that he's not an agent of the city. He's not being compensated anyway. And so then, Mr. Ferguson, you'd have to get involved and kind of set some clear guidelines. But my thought is we have nothing to lose. He's not going to get paid anything. And so if he comes up with nothing, we're back to where we were. If he's able to somehow get a fair agreement between the landowner and the city, then great. And so I think it's worth a shot. If he's not able to, then I'll eat crow when I need to. But I would be up for at least going down that path because, again, staff's tried for a couple of years with this property owner. Seemed to be close a couple times, and that one way just doesn't make sense. I think everybody's agreeing with that. So if there's another option that can happen, then great. So that's my 2 cents on that.
Are you opining or asking for council action
Yeah, I
to give direction?
asked some council members for feedback via email. So I guess if anybody's opposed to doing that, then you could go ahead and disagree with me. I'd love to hear it.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and add my comment. Yeah, I think it should be a two-way street as it is. So I'll be in favor of that. Let's see Mr. Baumann do his work.
Ms. Blaisdell. Is your light on for this or something else?
Something else, but I'm good with what Councilman Harpster said as well.
Mr. Ferguson.
My question was is that, and maybe Mr. Baumann can clarify this for you, but my understanding is that Mr. Baumann was an agent for Mr. Colbert and not, it sounds like what Mr. Harpster is requesting is for Mr. Baumann to be some kind of mediator in the situation where he wouldn't be representing either of the parties, but correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Mr. Baumann's in the audience. Can you state your position whether or not you're an agent for the other party?
I am not an agent for either party. I'm a local landowner and developer and work diligently to help the city get to the point that they are at today, to acquire the property that they have today for that. Work diligently with one of the former city engineers and believe that I can help with this. I have no financial tie other than this being a one-way will financially impact me, as is something that has been planned for a long time. It's been on Pasco's plan to put this through, and I have no idea how in the world this becomes a one-way. I can't figure out how to make it a one-way, And I think it's a terrible idea to say, well, we're going to give up and make it a one-way. So no interest in getting paid for it. Believe that I could be a good mediator sitting at the table, have no interest in getting paid for it.
Thank you, Mr. Baumann. Mr. Ferguson, I guess if you have got questions, either run it through staff or, because it sounds like there are at least four in agreement on moving forward with this approach.
We can explore it, but I don't want to say that
Understood.
we can move forward
No,
in that direction. But I'm
think
getting
the direction to look at it.
I'm picking up what you're throwing down.
Yeah. Yeah. Mr. Harpster, you got anything else?
Yeah, want to know if there's any updates on Peanuts Park from staff.
No direct updates. I think I'm looking for a little bit of direction. I think I shared with all of you, or I think I through Adam. Adam shared all with you that we have some potential funding sources that we could potentially split between Peanuts Park South, which we completed. There's about $200,000 left in that project, and we have about a $200,000 bucket of money between the state and our CIP for Peanuts Park North. And based on, I think that Peanuts Park South, if there's interest in a Portland Loo, that would potentially consume that money, which will only leave the $200,000 for Peanuts Park North. But if I better understood what the council, the direction is, I think myself and Director Sarah could potentially come up with either a demolition plan of the current park and then see what funds are available, of course, following the procurement guidelines, which make things a little interesting with public works style projects. But whatever we could accomplish with parks and public works operations staff, we could try to accomplish in-house, and then whatever remaining funds left, try to do something with that park. But I just was hoping for a little bit more direction, because there's just multiple scenarios. So if you have that tonight, be happy to take it, or I can re-summarize what I just said in an email and get it back to Adam for you guys to comment on.
Okay. I guess my 1/7 direction would be that I'm over the Waterloos for now, or whatever they're called. I do want to address them in the future, but this issue seems to be much higher relevance right now. And so my thought would be to take whatever funds we can to do whatever we need to do. It'd be helpful to have a discussion about the options. I was surprised that demolition was an option staff was interested in. I can't picture what we do if we demolished it and what would go in its place. And the picture I come up with is we demolish it and there's a bunch of dirt. Well, then they're still going to just come sit in the dirt and be worse than it was before. It really sucked to demolish it, obviously, but it really sucks how it is right now. And it's a less than professional term, but
I think given the money that we got from the legislature, demolishing it and leaving it as a gravel pit would not be something that anyone would be eager to come to that ribbon cutting. So I think there would need to be something more substantive done for the work to show what was done with those valuable dollars. So granted, we don't have enough money to do the same thing that we did on Peanuts Park side, but I think having closer to $400,000-$500,000 would be much more impactful than just putting $100,000 into probably a demolition and cleanup, I guess I would say, to make it more of a lighted pathway, and that's probably being generous too. So I think staff would rather put more dollars into it, and if Mr. Rice has found some.
We had $300,000 potentially.
I'm sorry, what was that?
It sounded like we had potentially $300,000.
We have about 400,000 total.
Okay.
And I think that would also allow us to be a little bit quicker, because I know Public Works Operations working on several summer projects and parks as well. So potentially that would allow us to go out for some sort of contracted service. And I think when we say demolition, it ultimately will probably involve demolition, or at least leveling that back down just based on the existing planters and trees and things like that there. But I'd assume what I'm envisioning for the money we have potentially is, repouring a flat surface, lighting, and making it just more open front to back, maybe adding some texture via colored concrete or curved walkways or something like that to make it of interest, but more of an open. And then we probably install some conduit for some existing features in the future, whether those be the lighted ballers with food truck plug-ins or some additional lighting or sound or something like that. It's not going to go, again, public works dollars don't go as far as private dollars, because there's contracting prevailing wages, but we have a crew that could bring you a conceptual idea of what we could do with that money, and in a rapid as government moves. That's
where I get sort of confused, and I apologize, maybe I'm missing something here. it's already a flat concrete area.
It is, but if you kind of take a look at the area, it's more of a brick type infrastructure. There's tree roots intrusions and things like that. Those planters and where they're sitting probably more than likely need to come out or be updated. The trees are kind of boxed within those areas, so more than likely those aren't going to survive a whole lot of groundwork and those things. So
So
it
kind of
kinda
removing
starts-
some of those seating areas. Okay.
and probably eliminating quite a few of those for like future bench work that would match future bench or the covered structures over in Peanuts Park. But I can just tell you, based on construction costs, we won't be able to afford those immediately. But I think if you're looking for instant improvement, would be kind of building to building concrete, lit paths, lighting that matches the similar with preparations for additional funding in the future. Or basically, we could spend that same amount of money to hire a design or concept, and that's what we'll get out of that money. So there's kind of limited choices with timeline and available funds, I guess. But open to suggestions.
Okay. And then how about from law enforcement perspective, and it's not my idea that in 1 week it's going to be this clean, crime-free zone, but it was sent more pictures, and there's now I'm assuming, I'm not a detective or anything, but it appears there's people with open alcohol containers and smoking illicit drugs, and so has there been any increased action on that, or?
There has, and there continues to be an emphasis downtown. It just depends on the day and how much effort we can put down there. We've had several days where we move the people that are doing illegal things along or cite them, and then they're back the next day. But we have not given up on that downtown area.
So then to sort of summarize, Director Rice, it sounds like you've got ideas, we've got some funding, you need some clear direction from council.
Yeah, if that directions tonight is to combine what available funds we have, then Director Sarah, myself, and some other staff can get together and kind of propose what we might be able to do for that funding and get you some sort of plan based on that.
Yeah, I'd love if we could do that, come back in a week or two with options to use that funding.
All right, it's not going to be like a fancy conceptual drawing. That's
Oh,
not
no,
ideal.
no.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you the best verbal description I can come up with.
Times
so.
New Roman 12 font works.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so my I guess ask to council would be for support of that, and I mean, I'm even more frustrated than I was last week. I got sent more pictures, and it's like you just want the problem to go away. You want to block the number that's sending you the pictures, but we need to address the problem and deal with it. And so my ask would be, hey, let's give some direction to staff to get available funding pulled together, and next week make some decisions on what we want to do to clean up this garbage.
I agree with everything that you're saying. However, I do want to make one comment to that. I drove downtown every single day last week. It was more I would say Sunday. It got a little bit on the, I guess, more congested with people on Sunday. So I know Pasco PD was active down there this whole week. So when was it? Monday night, Tuesday, it was nice and clean. Wednesday, Thursday, and then of course the weekend hit and Pasco PD got pretty busy. So right after farmers market on Sunday, you could see a definite notice of more people loitering. So
Anything else?
kind of, I have something to
Well,
add
I mean,
on
on-
to that.
Mr. Mayor, I do like Director Rice's vision that he has for it to create an open space that will be much more, policeable, if that's even a word, and just kind of help us with some of those problems. I am wholeheartedly behind this. Thank you.
Here in 3, do we have
I'd like to comment as well. I know I've did a walk with the Pasco Police Department like 6-8 months ago, and they were saying some of the same ideas. So obviously, you've talked with staff, and so I like it. I think it's great. The pathway, I hadn't heard that aspect, but I do like that. And then of course getting rid of the plant. So I think it's a great way to spend our money.
I'll
And
just
there
put a
will be
bow on
some-
it, Mr. Mayor. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say, and there's probably gonna be some jackhammering. I know you guys like the police and fire days, but you wanna come on down and do some jackhammering, I'll let you know.
Yeah, I'll just put a bow on it. I totally support what Councilmember Harpster is saying. This kind of just dovetails into the downtown master plan. And, we haven't really talked about lighting, environmental design. It's budget season. Maybe it's time we talk about having dedicated officers for those areas to clean it up and, enforce those no sit, no lie ordinances and stuff like that. So I think everything's on the table and I totally support that. But this is a more robust discussion other than just figuring out the design for the North Plaza area. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, it certainly sounds like there's at least four. I'm generally supportive of the idea. I'm very concerned about adding $500,000 or $400,000 into our budget, whether we've got the money or not. If this is from PD's perspective, one of the ways to really solve this, I'm open to that. So I'd hope that you could work with PD to really say, do we think this is a viable solution? Or, okay, at $400K, you get a flat path, but you need, X number of watts of lights to upset people and move them along or whatever. So, as long as we're providing a solution with it, I'm supportive of at least looking at it. All right, your light's off. Miss Blaisdell's light's still on.
Just to comment
no.
a little bit about the ordinance for 4717. I'm excited about this ordinance being passed. However, they have to go somewhere. So I'm just going to reiterate what I said last week to Captain Paramore. Is there anything we can do to prevent them from going down Court Street, Albertsons area with the same ordinances in front of those businesses?
Obviously, the ordinance could be changed. I think at this time, I think the PD believes that the location that's been identified is a great place to start. So.
Okay, I just want it on record that if it moves down, that we can address it at that time.
Yes, I think that Pasco PD is analyzing all of the stuff on a very regular basis, and we're using our crime analysts to do that, and we're tracking what's happening.
Okay, thank you.
And your light's off. I saw it come on and go back off.
Oh, I just had a note to remind everybody we're starting an hour early next week.
Yep.
That was it.
Helpful. Thank you. All right. I see no lights from staff. I see no lights. Miss Bras?
Nothing for me.
Okay. We are now moving on to item number 13, which is discussion with legal counsel about current or potential litigation under RCW, Revised Code of Washington, 42.30.110, subsection 1, Roman numeral 1. We're going to do this for half an hour, so 30 minutes. It's going to be city manager, legal counsel, and deputy city manager. Anyone else? Mr. Gonzalez.
And Mr. Gonzalez.
And we only need 25 minutes, Mayor.
Oh, yeah, that's right. It's only going to be 25 minutes. Does anyone need counsel? Do we need a break before, or are we ready to hammer this out? Okay. So we'll be until about 9:25. Thank you.
Because it can't help itself. But he won't come in. You know, I spoke with a single person. Now, I know a few farmers who are like, oh yeah, you know, he just got to show up to help us out. But right, exactly. I have friends, you know, I have friends in other counties, sheriff departments, same thing, just like your rule. I got double my was absolutely that have already retired. You know, I did some things. And I'm like, okay, we're gonna get along great. Right there, and it's like telling everybody that story. And they think, you know, wow, that's the biggest one. Like, I would be more bigger than me all day long. But that's I think that's what I did. Go on, I'll read the post. I'll read the post.
Oh my goodness. Oh yeah.
Hello?
How's it going, man?
Yeah, it came out.
See, now a real call this for me. Was that says emergency ringer? Yeah, about 5 minutes ago.
That's funny you brought that up. And I was telling Tom, says the book I was talking about was Trump's Art of the Deal. But I can't tell if it was Trump. But he did that so many times. I'm like, that's got to be BS. So I go Google what he's talking about. And it's great. You get a third party to get seated out so people and things can happen. I emailed all the companies every single one that's in favor. Great.
Oh, while you're saying.
Yeah.
So when you
And then-
email, so be careful.
Oh,
Make sure to only
recused himself from this, having a potential interest, a conflict of interest here. Thank you.
So we're gonna meet on Thursday. No. Great. Great. Yeah, well, I know. Yeah, it was very nice. You too. I think it was. I should yeah. Yeah. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
I'm just laughing. Hot mic.
It is 9:31 and we are out of executive session and this meeting is adjourned. Thank you for being with us.